Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about pricing and a little bit about how to think about pricing. We obviously not going to talk about specific numbers because I think specific numbers is missing the mark. Nobody can tell you specific numbers. We just don't know. A lot of it has to do with your area, your specific geographic spots and how the economy and things are going in your area. Obviously, if you're in a foreign country, some of the numbers that we're going to throw out here for the US may seem very high, they may seem very low, but we're just going to talk about it. We're going to talk about a way of thinking. And one of the things that I see a lot out there is the idea that photography is a commodity. A commodity is a thing, and a commodity is, you've got the price for the goods, the stuff that you need. Let's say you're canning peas. So you need the cans, you need the peas, you have labor costs, you have shipping costs, and you have maintenance costs. In other words, when it's in the stores. Now, all of this adds up to 43 cents a can. That's what it costs to make that can of peas. And then you go into the store wants 50% of the money you sell it for. So you've got to sell at least 86 cents for that. So you can recoup your 43, they can get their 43. But you don't want 43, you have to make a profit. Because if you don't make a profit, you can't grow and people can't have peas. When I hear people saying, oh, those people are just greedy, they just want profit. Yes, profit is really important. If you don't have the money, you can't continue to make your product. So maybe you charge $1.25 for that can of peas. Oh, hold on. You charge $1.35 for that. Oh, sorry, hold on. It's $1.40. Whew, man, I'll tell you, it's keeping up with inflation is tough. It's $1.47. Hold on, we get you have to create a profit, and that profit is where you grow from. So you're selling $1.25. You get your 43 cents back, plus you get money on top of that. Then you have to pay taxes, your corporate taxes, income tax on personal wealth, etc. So what started as a 43 cent can of peas ends up costing a lot more because of all the things along the way. We didn't even talk about import tax from state to state, excise taxes, etc. That's how the can of peas. Now let's go and talk about art. Art has essentially none of that. None of it. Art is based totally on the value of that piece to the end user. The value. Why is a Paul Klee painting worth $10 million? Well, it certainly isn't the canvas they used, and it certainly isn't the $60 worth of paint he used. It has to do with, it's worth $10 million because someone is willing to pay $10 million for it. The moment someone isn't willing to pay $10 million for it, it has no value at all. So we have to look at our pricing from not the front end. And believe me, when I see those memes up on Facebook, why does photography cost so much? Well, I have to buy cameras and I have to have a studio and wham. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'm sorry. You ever try to find out how much a pizza oven costs? Photographers think, well, we have to buy cameras. Try pricing a pizza oven. You'll be shocked. So what's it going to be used for? And what value is it to the customer? How do we determine that? Well, in some cases we know, some cases we ask, in some cases we have to investigate. There are ways to understand what's going on. I'm going to walk us through a very simple one, and some of you may have seen me do this before. A very simple understanding of how we do it. It's not every case, it's sort of a case study for most cases. We're going to do a headshot of little Jane here. Jane, we're going to do a headshot of Jane. We're going to have a makeup artist, and Jane's going to pop for a stylist. And I'm going to shoot it on my Canon with one light. That's how we did it. Jane is buying this so that she can be a model. The going rate in Phoenix is somewhere around $200 for that headshot, plus $50 for the makeup artist, plus $50 for the stylist. The Canon I own, it's mine. The light is mine, so there's no fee. So somewhere around $275, $300 for a headshot. That's Jane. Miraculously, that headshot's discovered on Jane's website, Jane's agency website on Thursday next week. And Maybelline says, we need a shot for our next ad campaign for the Wet n Wild lipstick, and we want Jane. By the way, we like that picture Don did. Can he shoot it? Okay, Jane comes down to the studio. We've got the same makeup artist. We've got the same stylist. I'm going to shoot it on my Canon with one light. What's it going to be used for? Well, it's a national ad. It's a national ad, and it's going to run in 25, we're just going to round it off, 25 consumer magazines. Full page ad. So if we look at 25 consumer magazines and we look at a rate of $10,000 per insertion per month for that ad, that comes to what, 2.5 million or 25, I don't know, 250,000, right? Yeah, $250,000 a month they're going to spend to put that picture out there. Believe me, my rate is not going to be $200, nor should it be. The value of this photograph to these guys is approximately $250,000 a month. So the value I'm going to charge them is probably somewhere around $20,000. And I'm sure there's a photographer in New York watching this right now going, you're an idiot. I'm going to charge them $60,000. And I understand that. But I live in Phoenix, where peas only cost 46 cents a can. So we have a big disparate thing for the exact same shot, from 200 to 20 grand for the same photograph. So it's not the photograph. It's not the Canon. It's not the light. It's not the girl. It's not the makeup artist. It's the value to the person on the other end. So let's take it to a place where maybe we can take it down to our level. Had a photographer recently call me, a local bed and breakfast. One of our photographers, bed and breakfast, needed 20 shots for media, for what do you call it? Social media stuff. They needed 20 shots. And it was just a bed and breakfast, come in and do it. They figured it'd take about an hour. The photographer figured to do a good job, take about 2 hours. So the photographer takes the 2 hours and then adds usage to it of a plus 25% usage. And he looked at it and he said, okay, well, this is going to be $1,000. I'm going to charge him $1,000 to go do those 20 pictures. Bob and Ethel don't have $1,000 for these pictures. They don't have it. In fact, it's not worth it to them because they can get free images from Airbnb. Airbnb will send somebody out. Airbnb sends somebody out and it costs them $60. This is where the value to the client is somewhere around $300 to $500, not $1,000. If photographer had the same bed and breakfast and it was going to be used in 5 local ads, that would be probably a $2,000 job, not a $1,000 job, because the value to the client is much higher. They're expending a lot of money over here. So it works both ways. You do have to weigh it. And if some of you don't want, if you actually say, look, I do not want to shoot for under $500, I don't want to do it, there is certainly nothing wrong with that at all. Not at all. Just you make your decision and you move on. So having an understanding of the value means we have to ask some questions. One of the questions we ask is, what do you want this picture to do? Get more clients? Increase your visibility? Raise your client level? All of those are possible, but you can't do all 3 with one picture. You can't do all 3 with one ad. If you're going after new clients, it's a different ad than if you're trying to get better clients. So you have to find out, what do they want it to do and what do they expect? Expect. I'm just going to put EXP. What do they expect? Do they expect that photograph that you do to create 5% more sales, 10% more sales, 20% more sales? What do they expect it to do? If they don't ask this information, ask them, what do you think this is going to do for you? What do you think a good photograph will do for your bottom line? Well, I don't know. Well, let's go to eBay, right? eBay is in the business of selling stuff and making a profit off your profit. When you sell something, they get paid. eBay does not have a photographer. They don't have a studio. They have no dog in the hunt. But they'd certainly like you to sell more of whatever it is you're selling on eBay. And they'll tell you flat out, good photography will sell 35 to 45% more product. Amazon has no studio, has no photographer. They have no dog in the hunt, and they'll tell you the same thing. Amazon and eBay both will tell you that if you add a 360, where you turn the product, doesn't matter what it is, you turn the product, you'll do another 10%. And if anybody has the knowledge, the data to back it up, more than any ad agency, more than any graphic design firm, these people have it. And that's why Amazon went to that, everything has to be on white. Everything has to, you want to see the front, you want to see the side and everything. Amazon will turn down vendors if the photography isn't good. And the reason is Amazon makes money when you make money, and they want to make a lot of money. So they're very happy telling you how you can make a lot of money. I would never listen to an ad agency per se without research. Never listen to an ad, because they make money whether you make money or not. I owned an ad agency. I know how the sausage gets made. And we were a good agency. We were on the up and up everywhere that we could be. But the reality is, if the client says, no, I really want to go with this green tamale because it reminds me of my mother, and we fight them and fight them and fight them, and they go with the green tamale and sales go up, 0.3%. Not our fault. In the contract, not our fault. You didn't take our advice. We don't buy into it. once in the agency, we wanted a really good client in Tucson, really wanted this client. It represented for us probably about 700,000 a year. And we went down and pitched them, and they said, we hear this crap from agencies all the time. And my partner is sitting there, and I looked at the guy and I said, I'll tell you what, we'll do the first ad for free. And if you don't get 15% more from that ad, we won't charge you. The bruise on my leg from my partner took about a week to go away, but we got the client. We got the client. The stipulation was, we're going to do this for you, but you're going to do it our way. We are going to do your ad for you, and you're going to listen to us instead of coming in and, we hired a great ad agency to do it, but now, the guy in accounting doesn't like the color, so we're going to have to change it. We didn't do that. And we did the ad, and we got the account. We had them for 2 years. So, which is actually was about a year and a half longer than I could stand that client, but still. The value, if they're going to be putting this thing out as an ad, they have to pay insertion fees. In other words, if it's going to be an ad, they have to sign a contract with a magazine or a newspaper that says they're going to buy X amount of pages in there to get it. And these are not cheap. One of our photographers had a company that made a musical instrument, and they were going to put it in the musical instrument magazine based all around that musical instrument. So their competition, every one of their competitors was in the same magazine. And they contacted him and they said, well, I said, oh, $2,000, that's like way over our budget. We only budgeted $250. So he called me and he said, what should I do? I said, you're going to go back to him and say, well, you bought an ad in this magazine, you bought an ad in this magazine, and you bought an ad in this magazine. Here's 3 magazines based on this instrument. Let's call it Saxophone Today, Saxophone Weekly, Saxophones Are Lovely. Those are the 3 magazines. Each one of those insertions is about $5,000. You spend $15,000 for 1 month placement, and you only want to spend $500 on the only thing in that magazine that is going to turn a head. Not your logo. Nobody cares. When you're looking at that piece of instrument, that saxophone, and it looks incredible, you're going to have inquiries about it. They said, well, that's a lot of money, but you gave us something to think about. Wasn't 20 minutes later, they called him back. Said, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. $2,000. We'll do it. And the photograph that he did was astounding. It's absolutely gorgeous. And in the magazine, it stood out like a blazing piece of art, because most of the stuff in the magazine wasn't all that good. Some of it was very professionally done. Some of it was, Bob in accounting has a really good camera kind of crap. And they sold the ever-loving crap out of that instrument. Highest, those trade magazines have a little thing in the back, send us what you're interested in and we'll send it on, those things. Highest ever in the magazine, highest inquiry ever in the magazine about the instrument. Why? Because of the photograph. So have a conversation with your client. What's the value of this thing to you?
So Don, there was a $15,000 media buy, and he came up with a 2,000 number. Was that a formula, a percentage, or was that?
No. It was just basically really what the shot was worth based on how long it would take him. There's a picture of this. We figured it'd take him about a half day.
Okay.
So
and he wants to get it.
And believe me, his day rate isn't 4,000.
Right.
There's no formula, so don't expect there to be one, guys. There isn't. It's kind of like, Brett's in Seattle. There's There's the Seattle rates for photography are higher than Phoenix's, right? Much lower than LA's, much lower than New York, higher than Tulsa, that type of thing. So wherever you're located, you do have to kind of find what's happening in your town and nationally, and understand that sometimes national clients will treat people who are not in New York or LA or San Francisco as second rate. It's not fair and it's not true, but they expect discounts from us where they wouldn't get discounts from people in New York. A case in point was a photographer here locally was asked to do an ad. It was a national ad. It was being photographed. It was of baseball players, this ad campaign of baseball players, and they were being photographed wherever the teams were. So if you were in LA, you got the Dodgers, you know, they would call you, shoot this guy at the Dodgers. If it was Pittsburgh, you got the Steelers, and you got to go and shoot. I don't know. Do they play baseball? Something. Anyway, whatever. They didn't send a guy everywhere. They didn't grab a great photographer and send her out to all the cities. They hired photographers in the cities. He did such a great job, they didn't have to retouch it. And they called him and said, you only charged $5,000. And he said, well, in Phoenix, $5,000 is a pretty good rate for an hour and a half thing. He said the guy in LA charged 20 grand and they had to spend another 5 grand on retouching. So sometimes it just is where you are. Just that's it. How do you get that research? Well, one thing you can do is ask other photographers. They'll lie to you. So you ask a group of photographers, you ask a bunch of them. And what you want to do when you're calling up photographers, you want to say, look, I'm not calling you up so I can undercut you. I'm calling you up so I don't undercut you. Everybody hates the new guy or new gal, but it's the new person. And because the new person comes in and goes, oh, everybody's getting $1,500 for that product shot. I'm going to do it for $325 and I'll get all the jobs. Remember that can of peas? Now you're in a situation where it's costing you $1 to make the peas, but you're only selling it for $1.25. And at the end of the year, you're broke. You couldn't make the money back. Reason is, if you were trying to sell this to the store at $1, for instance, $1 for that piece, they got to charge $2 so they get 50%, and you needed to get another $2.75. Here's a news flash: ain't nobody going to spend $2.75 on a can of peas. Same with photography. If you price it ridiculously high against the client's value, they're not going to do it. If you replace it ridiculously low, they may do it. There's still no guarantee if you're the cheapest guy in town that you're going to get all the work. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is look around in any city, and you'll find that there are some top photographers in those cities, right? Dan, where you are, there's some pretty kick-ass photographers making good money, right?
Sure.
So if the theory of being the cheapest photographer in town worked, how come aren't all the top photographers aren't the cheapest in town? Instead, they're the most expensive in town.
Right.
The idea of being the cheap person doesn't even make sense in the real world.
Right. Value is value.
Value is value. Yeah.
Perceived value.
Yes, absolutely. Perceived value is, you're absolutely right. You can spend $500 on paints for a painting and not be able to give it away, right? You've got $500 worth of enamel into your painting and nobody wants it. In fact, the garbage people take your garbage and leave it on the sidewalk. I mean, it can be that bad, right? There's no guarantee that if you put this into it, it'll have that. But there's, on the other hand, no guarantee on the other end. It's like, well, if I only use a cheap camera, it's only worth this much. Well, that remind you, one of the top photographers in America is Matt Mahurin. And if you have seen the video Sound of Silence by, help me guys, the rock band.
Disturbed.
Thank you, Disturbed. If you
Cover,
see
yeah.
that, that's Matt Mahurin. He's incredible. His camera of choice, a $30 plastic Holga. His prints sell for between $5,000 and $12,000. They were shot on a Holga. So there's no correlation. What it is, it's the value, right? So we have to look at the value, and you have to do some research. The big R word, research. What's it going for in your town? Some things are fairly consistent, some things are not. Some things are not consistent at all. We were talking in the agency, talking about a job that is paying $100,000 for 400 photographs for a library shoot. Now, that $100,000 is not for one photographer. One photographer does not go out and do this stuff. This is a team. They've got a producer and makeup people and hair people and, you know, assistants and the whole bit. So it's a team of 5 or 6 people that show up, but the client's spending $100,000 for 400 shots. And someone said, that's crazy. Is it? It's $160 per shot, folks. That's a lousy $160 per shot, right? Am I right? Am I doing
Lousy
that?
number.
Mhm.
Huh?
Is that a I would say that was a lousy number.
It's not all that big a deal, right?
Right.
I don't know. I can't remember I cannot remember how many pictures it was, but it came to $160 per picture. Now,
And it's
this
a bargain.
client, a big hotel chain, is getting 400, 500, 600 pictures for $160 a piece. Trust me, they're very happy because they can use them for anything. They can put them on their Instagram, they can put them in Facebook, they can put them on ads, they can put them on billboards, they can run them in weeklies. It's a library shoot, they can do anything they want. $160 is dirt cheap. But we're photographers and we think everybody has the same budget we have. No, I can imagine if Dan wanted some family portraits and he called up Anna Marie and said, hey, Anna Marie, I need some family portraits. And she said, well, I'll do 20 portraits for $50,000. Dan might go, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Right? No,
Oh,
the
you
value
know my family.
yeah, it's and you treasure your family, but you don't have that value in it, right? JFK Jr. paid $50,000 for his wedding photography, and the guy shot 20 rolls black and white film. You know why? Because $50,000 for JFK Jr. was, you know, coffee money. Wasn't an issue. He wanted the best in the business. He wanted them there. He wanted to be, you know, in control, and he did it. And one of the wedding photographers' photographs ended up being on the cover of, I believe, Life magazine. The RFK Jr. was running out of the church with his bride behind. It was like a, you know, a storybook photograph. It's just incredible. And so he was willing to, for JFK Jr., it was worth $50,000. It's not worth it to most of us because we look at where that number fits in. So what is the magic number in your town? It's going to be higher or lower wherever you are. I'm sure Carolyn is in Melbourne, right? Melbourne. Your hourly rate, I mean, your day rate in Melbourne is probably lower than the USA, I would think. I've got 2 clients that work in Melbourne, and I think they were telling me $1,500 to $2,500 was a pretty darn upper end day rate. Where in New York City, you have people working for 3 times that. And also in San Francisco. San Francisco has some very high day rates as well. We use day rates as a thumb, not as a real number. I think you should charge by the shot. So before we move on to how to charge, does this all make sense? Can you do the research and kind of find out? You're going to know your client when they come in. If it's a startup company, they may not have a lot of money, or they may have tons of money. Google is your friend. We're a startup company. Google says you just got $9 million in first round funding.
Yeah. Hey, Don.
Yeah.
At some point, I'd like to maybe discuss the whole issue of differentiating your market, your clients, because I am right now in an interesting situation, and I've talked with you a little bit about this with Destin and his headshot and his pursuing acting.
Mm-hmm.
And well, he was required to have a headshot to go with his this portfolio of what he's done in the past between acting and dancing and
Right.
and the like. And the CD cover photo I did, his grandmother threw on his resume. It wasn't exactly what they wanted in theatrical headshot, but they accepted it anyway. And she was getting very good positive feedback from the professionals who are running this local theatrical group, including apparently a director they brought up from LA to actually direct the production. And we were discussing because she wanted my business cards, which I don't have quite yet, but she said they were all the professionals were all impressed with the headshot, and she thought that the headshot I could do the same thing for the other kids that are part of the production. And it struck me that wait a minute, if I were to get into like the theatrical headshot business, it seemed like there would be two natural markets there. One for the for the youngsters who are getting their feet wet. They're not professionals yet, but they got to go through the motions of actually doing the resumes, having the headshots, and understanding how, and then and price them at one level. And if there's interest on the part of professionals, and price them at a different level, because the professionals are actually making an income from the headshots.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. First of all, I want to start out by saying every actor in Hollywood gets headshots after every movie they make.
Right.
It's really, really important that you don't think that people understand that Tom Cruise still auditions and still sends out headshots. Absolutely. I shot Roger Moore's headshot after he was 007. I shot God's headshot. You know who God is, right? Say goodnight, Gracie. Say goodnight, Gracie. George Burns.
George Burns.
Yep. I shot his headshot.
Burns.
Yeah. I shot Rockford Files. Shot him. They get headshots all the time. And you're right, they do. They send them out. Everybody has to audition. The thing that you want to do, Audie, in your areas, you want to get a hold of the modeling/talent agencies, and they're usually listed separately. You have modeling agencies and talent agencies.
Right.
And say, I've been approached by this casting director to do some photographs. I don't want to undercut all the guys in town. What's a good range to work with? They'll give you the range.
Yeah.
Well, because they're going to know that Bill charges this, Linda charges that, and they'll give you a range, and they'll appreciate you calling and asking, so that you're not gouging their kids either. So that's how you do your research on it.
Okay.
So
Yep,
Don,
good.
Don, quick question. In his case, if two people know, if they know the rate of the first one, how do you justify a different rate for the second one if they want the same thing? For example, granted, like you said, the professional can afford to pay more. It's more valuable to them. But,
They don't pay that much more, Ryan. A typical actor headshot in LA is about $500-600. A starting out actor would pay about $250 to $300. It's about double, but it's not thousands. They're not spending thousands.
Right.
so there would be no pushback even though it's slightly different.
No,
And
No.
same with businesses. I mean, obviously, if let's say a medium level company, not a mom and pop, but a medium level, saw that, you did a campaign. I love the campaign you did. It was for around $2,000. That fits our budget perfect. But when we do our research, we see that they could probably afford to pay me $5,000.
well, maybe,
And they come,
Yeah.
then they come
remember,
back and they say, oh, why is it 5,000? I mean,
it's different though, it's different that they can afford you. They have to see the value there. It's the perceived value, the value of your work is what they're going to pay for. The value of the end piece is what they're going to pay for. And that has nothing to do with their ability to pay. We can't price on ability to pay. But when you look and you say, well, they're running this in 6 different magazines. Okay, they know what's up. They know what's up. This isn't like all new to them, right? But again, that startup, that we were talking about, startup, they may have a lot of money, but they've never hired a photographer in their life. They have no idea. And
Right. And that,
go ahead.
yeah, and Don, that's where I'm coming from because, a lot of these kids, some of them are not even in high school yet. And, and they're wanting to perform and, and rightly so, the local theatrical company is having them go through the hoops because jump through the hoops because they want them to understand what it's like to actually be a professional artist, performing on stage or dancing, and this becomes the issue. They want to participate in a play or whatever, knowing that they're not going to get paid for it. However, they will get the experience, and they may or may not eventually go on to want to become a performer, professional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the different kettle of fish, in terms of the scope of the photography, as opposed to somebody who is a professional and he's and his livelihood is depending on what all the work a photographer can provide.
That's kind of consumer type photography because they're not professionals yet. When you're dealing with consumers, it's impossible to put a value on it because consumers bring a lot of other issues.
Yes.
We have wedding photographers that'll do a wedding for $1,000, and across the street is a wedding photographer who wouldn't do it for under 10. It's still wedding photography. If I was just looking for a place this summer in Ouray to go up and spend a month, and I was looking at stuff, and then I found one place that's literally, according to Google Maps, across the street from this other place. Little place here, bigger place here with a view. This place was $2,700 for the month. This place was $29,000 for the month. The point is, both of them will rent. There are people for whom $29,000 to spend a month looking out the window is no big deal. That's fine for them. For me, it's like, yeah, that ain't happening. So, that's the different thing. So your people will pay $300 for a headshot for little Joni to be in that play, and there are other people that just won't do it. they're just not going to do it. That's the problem with consumer photography, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. That's why I don't do consumer photography. It's too hard. They don't see the value. But somebody who is placing ads, like Ryan was asking, how do you know? If they're placing ads in magazines, they know. If you're dealing with an ad agency, they know. If you're dealing with a marketing company, they know. It's the same with rights. When we talk about rights, the big R word, rights. When you're talking to Joe and Ethel, and they've got a bed and breakfast in Boise, everything Joe and Ethel buys, they own, right? They bought that salt and pepper shaker, and if they want to throw it in the garbage, it's theirs. It's really hard for you to go to Joe and Ethel and say, oh yeah, I'll come and take photographs of your place, and you sort of get to use them for 6 months, then you have to pay me again. They're like, what? And then photographers go, well, we've got to educate them. Oh, forget that. You're not going to educate them. There's no education. They don't get it. They'll move on to someone who has less F word friction. Friction is what kills it. If you start getting friction, you're not going to get that. That could be a $1,200 job. It may not be that they don't have money. They have money. They just don't want to. They don't want the friction of having to go through all your hoops, and you start throwing up hoops. So, but if you're dealing with an ad agency in Boise who is handling 5 properties, and Joe and Ethel's is one of the ad agency knows all about rights, because they do the same thing. That commercial they do for late night television for Joe and Ethel's bed and breakfast, they pay per month to run that thing, and Joe and Ethel pay them for a run. Maybe it's a 6-month run, maybe it's a 12-month run, but they pay them just like a magazine insertion. Then if they want it again for 6 more months, they pay them again. And they pay those guys a whole lot more for the second run than they usually pay photographers for their rights, their additional rights usage. Photographers go, oh, I always get extra rights money. You know how you can tell whether a real photographer and not a Facebook photographer? Say, oh, when you bill them the second time, how much do you bill them? Crickets. Nobody knows. If you think that you do $1,000 job and you go, well, they're going to use it again next year, I'll charge them another $1,000. No, it's not that at all. It's closer to 25%. So, be really, really, really careful. Let's pop into some numbers here.
Hey, Don, I was going to say real quick for Audie's situation too. I know he had a phone call, so I don't know if you can hear or not. You kind of get into a situation of what he's looking at where you have to figure out what you're comfortable doing it for, do the best that you can. But at the same time, you have to realize, like you said, with the rent, like some of these customers or potential customers aren't going to be the right ones for you. So you got to.
So one of the things that you do after you do the big R research, one of the things you do is you have to sit down and be really honest with yourself. What's your minimum rate? What's your minimum? You should have a minimum, and you should type it out or paint it on the wall or frame it in front of you, and remind yourself when you're thinking, oh, I'll do it cheaper, that you have set a minimum. For me, $500. That doesn't mean that it's going to be 500 for Anna Marie. It doesn't mean it's going to be 500 for Ryan. Joe could be some other number. That's my number that I came up with. If I'm going to do a job, it has to exceed $500. The simplest job. Does that mean I do headshots? Nope, don't do them. I did them for 30 years. I don't need to do headshots again. Okay, so that's my minimum. I believe the best way to charge is on a per shot basis. Okay, now my $500 is not based on an hourly rate. It's based on how long does it take to do the simplest photograph, Mark, an average? 2 hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my belief, 2 hours. You get your stuff, you put it in a car, you drive 30 minutes, you take it out, you spend 30 minutes taking a picture of the dentist, you pack all the stuff up, you go home, you take it out of the car. Minimum 2 hours for the quickest photo shoot, right? So that kind of sounds like, I'm not going to carve it in stone, sounds like I'm $250 an hour, right? Okay, let's go with $250 an hour. $250 an hour times 10 is a day rate of, oh my gosh, 2,500, right in keeping with pretty much the middle of the road, the higher end middle of the road here in Phoenix. All right, 2,500, that's a day. That's based on 10 hours. So when someone comes to me and they say, well, how much is it going to cost me to do X? I don't want to give them a $2,500 day rate. Who knows why?
Because they're going to have you shooting all day for however many pictures, and then you're still there.
You told them that you'd be there all day for $2,500, and it's pushing 6 o'clock, and they're yelling at you. Come on, come on! I even heard a story about they wouldn't let the girl go to the bathroom because they said they paid her for a day. And they wanted it. It's like, I don't know if that's true. I kind of doubt it, but I've heard that story. She said, I wouldn't even let me go to the bathroom. Nobody get in the way between me and the bathroom. I'd just pick up a pipe. That's not happening. But that's the problem. The other thing is, let's find out who's been in class a while here. Well, Anna Marie has been in the shorter class. Anna Marie, in the last 15 weeks, have you gotten faster at making photographs?
Oh, definitely faster.
Okay. Somebody's been in longer. Audie, have you gotten faster at making photographs?
Yes, and
Okay.
I think I'm getting a little bit better at making them too.
So how do you bid a $2,500 day rate? What if they bring 8 photographs out and you can knock these bad boys out in 4 hours and they look good, right? They're going to go, okay, well, I only told you $1,250 because you told us you'd be here all day. If you want to get screwed, do it this way. So what I do is I go, okay, $250 an hour. They have 8 shots. How long is it going to take me to do the 8 shots of? Then I do research. What do you want me to shoot?
Mhm.
Well, we want you to shoot toasters. Well, I can do a toaster in an hour, or I can do a toaster in 2 hours. Right? But most people, about 2 hours. So I can shoot 5 toasters in a day. And I'm going to charge you $250 per toaster.
Well, Don, I've got a question.
Or 10, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
10
what-
10 toasters in a day, $250 per toaster comes out to my day rate. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, you may have your idea about what the toaster should look like, but then you've got the art director, if there is one, or whoever the client is, who's got their own idea as to what the toaster should look like. So it seems to me you could end up dragging out the shoot to fill up all your time between shooting it
Well,
the
usually-
way they want it and the way you want it.
Well, that's theoretically, and that could happen, but you know what they want. They've shown you what they want,
Mhm.
and you look at it and it's, fill cards, etc. You can make the shot. If it's an ad shot, if they want one killer toaster shot for an ad and it's going to go in 27 consumer magazines, it's probably not going to be $2,500, and we'll probably
Mhm.
spend all day on it just because we should. Okay, it's probably going to be double that or more. The value is great enough that they will want to do it. On the other, if they're going to say to me, okay, we're going to do it $250 a shot. That is, by the way, understood to be one day. That's also in the contract. I'll do the 8 shots for $250 a piece in a day. This keeps them from, my favorite thing is, Well, look, it's only 4 o'clock. And since you have your camera with you, could you do a shot of the CEO? And my answer is absolutely. Let's add that 250 on to the bottom here. Change of work order. Change of work order. That's what it's called. You carry a little tablet of it. And
Yeah.
I've rarely had a client say no, but I have had some clients say, oh, I didn't know it was going to cost more. Yes, $250 per shot. That keeps me honest, but it also gives them something because now they have a budget. One of the things that scares them about buying art and intellectual property is that, for them, it's like, well, how long is a piece of string? You're saying, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And they're like, okay, well, how much is it going to cost you? Well, let me figure out the usage. And that scares them. You come in and goes, $250 a shot. We're going to do 10 shots in the day. And if I have to come back and reshoot anything for whatever reasons, $250 a shot. If I screw up, they're out of focus, or I didn't put a card in the camera, or something lame, then I have to eat that. But if they come back and say, well, the art director wanted it more to the side, hey, guess what? I'm not a mind reader. Which is why in my contract I have a line that says, this represents a line in my contract. It's representational art. The line says, you will have someone there to approve the art, or you bought it. I can't go and shoot stuff and have you go, well, I think that's what they want, because if it's not, you bought it anyway. So the person that's there has to be authorized to approve, and they approve it. They check mark it. They do whatever you want to do with them. They approve each shot as you do it, and they bought it. I just heard another horror story about a photographer spent like a day shooting this stuff in her studio. And then the client came back and said, oh, we decided we don't like them on white. They look ugly on white. We want to shoot them on something else. Let's just throw that stuff away and start again tomorrow. What? No, you can throw it away, but tomorrow is another week. The clock starts again. Not my fault that you didn't like them on white. So protecting yourself with contracts is really, really important.
Do you have a good source for contract templates that we can?
There's a good contract in Find Photos, Find Photo Clients now.
That one, okay.
Yeah, it's really good. Also, it also has a line that they can that if they contractually cannot use your photographs legally until after they've paid the invoice in full. Contractually, no IP attorney. We're not going to sue them for copyright and all that crap. Here's a dirty little secret. You can't afford to sue anybody for copyright. None of you on this wall. I don't have to see your Dun & Bradstreet. I can tell you, none of you can afford, because IP attorneys don't do contingency. They go, oh, you want to sue that guy for that $600 shot that you didn't pay you for? Okay, well, we'll need $10,000 up front, and it's $600 per hour. No, that's not going to happen. So contractually, you just go to small claims court and they throw a lien on the guy because it's in the contract. He used it, he didn't pay you. That's a contractual violation. It has nothing to do with copyright. So I even have that in there. It's a really good template. Many of the times, and I don't want to get into contracts, so I'm going to just say it real quick. Many of the times, the request for proposal or your proposal back to them contains your contractual language. So when you make a proposal back, you've got all, because everything about whether usage and rights and copyright and all that, that's got to be in your proposal, not a contract that comes later. It's right up front so they know what they're buying. I like the per shot thing based on some knowledge of how long it's going to take you to do the shots, what they need, and how it comes out to magically just happens to coincide with a rate that you have decided is your day rate. And one last little thing about pricing. stop worrying about what you left on the table. If you negotiate a price, say somebody says, I want my tractor photographed, and you work with them and you give them a price of 800, or you give them a price of 1,000, and they say, well, that's a little steep, and you come down to 800 because you really want to get that tractor, that $800. If you're happy with that $800, if you're happy with it, then you're gold. I don't care if Bob could have gotten 12 because Bob didn't get it. I did. I want to be happy. If you're not happy with that $800, don't do the gig. Walk away, but never let me hear you say, they didn't pay me enough for a good job. They paid you what you agreed to do a good job, because the doing a good job in this business is just understood. That is just understood. That's what we do. We do the best job we possibly can, whether it's for $10 or 100,000, because we agreed to do it. It's really, really important. You treat every job like it's a $100,000 job, you'll watch your career blossom. I guarantee it. All right. We've got just a few minutes for questions. Oh, come on. I'm good. I'm not that good.
If you've got extra images over, say if you're doing like product shots,
Uh-huh.
and you take a lot of different angles or different lifestyle shots, and you got extra images over, like sometimes I'll put those extra images in just for them to use.
Sure.
Is that okay to do that?
Absolutely. I would
Why?
never tell you not to do that. You're just basically helping guarantee they're going to hire you again, right?
Yeah.
That is totally up to you. Absolutely. Whatever you want to do. If you're happy, that's all that matters. If they strong arm you into giving them the pictures, then you're not happy, are you? You're
Yeah,
feeling like you're taking advantage of it. If you're not,
Yeah. Because I feel like even though they might have paid for 10 photos, I might have an extra 5 that I think are worth using.
uh-huh.
And I'll say, use these if you want on social
Yep.
media or wherever.
You can also put in the contract that it's, 25, it's $250 a shot for the 10 shots. And for any photographs after that you've shot that they want to purchase, they're $150.
Okay, yep.
And so they get their 10 shots and they go, oh, that's really cool. You've already given them a price. They know it's $150. It's not, they're not going to have to be in a situation where you go, they go, well, how much is it? And you go, how much you got? And they go, well, what do you need? Let me make a call to your bank and I'll figure that's, just tell them up front, $100 a shot, $150 a shot. They know, they come in, they know they're authorized to spend another $600 and you make more money.
So Don, when you're in the initial conversation and you're saying, hey, what's the scope of the project?
Mhm.
You build a shot list that's pretty descriptive. So then you can say, oh, this is the 9 shots and 17 shots or whatever.
Yes.
Say you got a customer that wants to do I have a customer that a small manufacturer is looking for me to shoot an image library for them.
Right.
So to go in and shoot the processes, the people, their locations, and kind of spend, and we haven't quite quantified it yet, but it's going to be a lot of shots and it's going to be opportunistic shots as opposed to set up, because it's whatever's going on. in the back.
It's going to be like a newspaper reporter.
Almost like more
Sure.
corporate reportage.
Reportage.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the logic of your per shot price.
No, not for a library shoot.
Yeah.
No, it's the day rate. You give them a day rate.
Yep.
Because you've already agreed to be there all day.
Right.
And you don't know how many shots, but you definitely have to decide on how many they get.
Right. I would say I'm going to deliver from this date of shooting, 40 images.
40
So
images.
I'm going to put a meter in,
There has to be. That way, then you can say, and any additional shots you want are $45 a piece.
Okay.
Flat rate, $45. So they get another 10 shots for $450. That's pretty good price, right?
Right. And say I shoot 200 shots in a day, would you, and I get 200 useful shots that have value, but they only agreed to 40. Would you set up the other 60 and 140 in a website and say, hey,
No,
here goes
no,
your-
I'd put all your good images. Let's say you end up at the end of the day, you got 211 really good images.
Yep.
You make them low res.
Yep.
With your watermark on the corner.
Yep.
So I can't do shit with them, right?
Right.
You put them in a Dropbox and you say, send me your list of 40
Right. And if
and we'll get them
if
to
they
you.
can narrow it down, you get the extra 10 or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, no, and I would almost guarantee you that you're going to pick up another 10 to 20 images. I almost guarantee it.
Well, there's incentive to be creative that way. I mean,
Yes.
get the shots I need, but also
Yes,
to play around. So, which
Absolutely.
appeals to me. So,
absolutely.
Part of it too is make sure you're asking the right questions before you actually bid the job for them. Find out what their expectations are, like how many spaces they want you to shoot in,
Right.
how
No,
long
we're
you're gonna
talking about
be
that.
there.
Yeah.
And if you're going to need lighting or is it all natural light? So you're kind of thinking in your mind, like if I'm in one room for 3 hours, or you can get so many pictures, but if you're going to 7 different locations in 3 hours, then
Break up,
you're
sit
going to
down,
have
set
time
up,
in
break down.
between. So make sure you're asking the right questions about the job beforehand before you give them a price.
And never be reticent about saying to them, I'm sorry, we can't go from this plant and drive 30 miles to this plant and drive 15 miles to this plant and deliver 40 pictures in a day.
Right.
Because our need, every photographer I've ever met is a people pleaser. We put our pictures on Facebook hoping people will like them. Come on, this is the absolute definition of a people pleaser. Right? We're so wanting to say yes for it that then we get in a situation where it's 3 o'clock, the sun's going down, and you're still heading to the next location, and you're thinking, holy crap, this isn't going to work. It's better up front to say, guys, how long is it going to take it from location A to B? Because it's going to take me at least 45 minutes to pack my gear and get ready. And you know how things can go during a shoot. You're saying we'll be out of here at 11. So if we're out of here at 12, what happens, guys? Now we're behind. We get on the freeway and there's a semi truck overturned. We have to take a detour. Now we're behind. So, don't be afraid to say, you're asking for more than I can do in a day.
And I was also thinking about kind of marketing that package explicitly to, small companies. Say, hey, look, I come in and do the facility, your people, here's a package deal, just to kind of get people that may not have an agency, but they definitely have a visual inventory need.
If they're doing social media,
Right.
a great way to find clients, by the way, is hit Google Maps, find businesses around you, hit Instagram, and see if they're doing it, if they're doing social media. If they're not doing social media, if they're still on your map, they might be doing advertising. So then you put in Chef's Lounge, Fremont, Ohio ad agency. If there's an ad agency that has them, it could come up in Google.
Right.
And then you go to the library once a month and you get what's called the book of business, Black Book of Business. Ask your librarian. They have it. It'll tell you every ad agency and every client that they have, and you can index by client and index by ad agency. If they don't have an ad agency and they're on Instagram, chances are they got somebody, some
Right.
college student, niece, or somebody's doing their social media for them.
Yeah, I just think it's a good low barrier to entry product to get into front, to get revenue going, getting in front
Yes,
of people,
totally agree.
build out my inventory.
Totally agree.
Hey, Don, the one other thing, I don't know some of the people on here. If you wanted to talk about when you're putting together a bid with your creative fee and having line items in there for flexibility.
We're gonna do this again, Mark, and we're gonna talk about contracts.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about thinking about why you charge what you charge and thinking about the value that you bring. If you do a photograph for a regional company that sells auto parts, none of us probably realize how much that auto parts store down on the corner makes. We might guess, chances are we'd be low, right? Because we're going to base everything on what we do. You know, you might be surprised to find out that that Checker Auto store down the corner makes about 60,000 a month or more. So we got to know what is going on by doing a research, what is happening there, and we have to know what the value is of our photography. If our photography helps that auto parts store sell 10% more over a year,
It's real money.
that's a lot of money.
Mhm.
And we're only asking for a tiny percentage of that. Got to believe in
Yeah, hey,
yourself.
Don, you raise it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking the notional about an auto parts store. I guess the question is, though, how do you deal with a local franchise like an auto parts store, and they and we know that, yes, they're, the corporate parent does have an
Probably-
advertising budget,
no,
and they're
Roddy, probably
advertising
not.
local area.
Yeah, you don't. If it's a Napa or a Pep Boys, there's nothing there.
Yeah, they get brand
Every-
funds.
Everything
But if
comes.
it's a mom and pop,
Mom and pop, they're gonna get, if they carry Valvoline oil will send them stuff to put in their
Mhm.
coupon. If they can go up on the website and download stuff to put in the coupon ads and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But they still may need pictures of their employees. They may have remodeled the store and need pictures of those. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I know that it
Okay.
sounds like I'm talking about very low end photography, but it takes low end photography to get to the middle, and you got to do the middle
Mhm.
before you get to the top.
Mhm.
Nobody starts this business at the top. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
Gonna have to shoot a lot of dog collars and pillows and garage door opener parts before you get the big stuff. So.
Mhm.
All right, well, I'm gonna let everybody go. I hope you enjoyed it. And we're gonna do one on contracts here fairly soon. And I want to do these things more often, at least one per month, maybe more, but at least
Okay.
one per month where we can come on and really talk about something specific. So thanks again, everybody, for coming on, and we
Thanks,
will
sir.
see you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Don.
Yes,
Take care.
enjoy it.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Mhm.
Bye.